Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to another session. In this session, we are going to learn about how we can integrate our login API with the database for the verifying your credentials. As of now, we have just hard coded the login credentials into the C# code itself, but this is not the right way to go. This is for just understanding how our API will be work. Okay. Now we verify that if we send your username password parameters, accordingly, it will just verify your credentials and will return the response. Now, let's make it dynamic. So it will work for any user credentials. Okay. So let's say there are 1000 credentials available in the database. So any user will provide their own credentials and it will verify that credentials in the database. If it is matching, then only we will return it as a true, otherwise false. Okay. Currently it is only for admin account. So this is not correct. Now I'm just removing everything. Okay. Okay. So first of all, we need one log account service. Okay. Why we need that? Because account service will take care of the business logic. We will not have any business logic into controller. We will have our business logic into the service class. Where is the service class? Service class will be available inside the service project. Here I'm going to add one account service. So how we can add that? Right click, add class. So this class will be your account service class. Okay. Account service.cs. Okay. Now this service class should have its own interface. Why interface? Because we wanted to implement the dependency injection. You might heard about this word, right? What is dependency injection? So dependency injection means if you want to keep your two classes, project, two components loosely coupled from each other, like there is no dependency of one class and on the another class. We wanted to inject their dependency through the constructor like this. You can see this account controller, we have injected iLogger as a parameter from outside of this class. So we are not creating an object of this class inside this class. So that's why this class is not dependent on the iLogger class. Okay. It is dependent on the iLogger interface, not class. Okay. Now we need to create one interface. So that interface I will create inside the common. So inside the common, I will add one more folder. Folder is called as a services. Inside the services, we will add new interface, new item. Here I account service. Okay, service we will require for business logic purpose. So we are having services inside that account service. This should be a public because I wanted to use this interface outside of this project, and inside this service I will have one method. As you know, interface can only have the abstract method. Okay, so I will add one method like verify credentials. Okay, and its response will be login response verify login details. This is your method name and parameter will be login request dot request. So this is the method available inside the account service. So this account service need to inherit or implement this method into the account service class. Okay. So here in the account service, we will just implement that method. What is that interface name? I account service. Okay. This I account service is not recognized because this is available into service project and we need to add the service project reference into our current project. You can see add service project reference to talent to track common. Okay, we need to add this common project into our service project. We got that. Now why it is showing error message? Because interface has one rule. If you want to implement the interface into any child class, you will have to implement all the methods available from that interface. So in this interface, you are having this method. So you will have to implement that here. Like how we can implement that like this. Okay. So this should be a public. Let's make it async. Async means it will improve the API performance. Every business logic, background logic will perform in a child thread, and main thread will be wait for main thread will be free for serving some additional API costs. So that's why it should be async, and its return type will be task. Okay. And then this is your method name, and as it is not returning anything, it is showing some error. So this login response will have one login response object created here. Okay, it is null, or let's say it is not null, it is new login response. Okay, there might be some errors we might get while working with this, right? So that's what try catch block. Okay, try catch exception ex. In the try catch block, we will just log the exception. Okay, I'm just writing to do log error, and then we will throw the exception as is. We will not catch the exception. Okay, whatever exception we will get, we will just throw it, or we will throw the abstract error message. But for now, same message I wanted to return to the UI. Now what we are doing, this one, verify login details. Login, I wanted to call to the database, right? I wanted to make a database call to verify my credentials. So for that, I need login details object, database things here. So for that, I need to create an object of the DB context class. Okay, so let me think. Okay, this service class will have a business logic only. Okay, and there will be repositories, towel layer also there, right? Okay, at the DAO layer, this one, will create right click, add folder, repositories. Okay, and I'm going to create one repository that is for login details. So let's create a new class, account repository. Okay, and this account repository will have, again we need a dependency injection, because creating an object of account repository outside from the any class. So in this repository class, we will have one DB context class object, public. What is the name of our DB context class? Talento track, right? Talento track DB context. Then DB context like this. We will have one constructor, public account repository. Inside this, we will initialize this object like this. So talented track DB context, we will initialize that. So we got an object of DB context. Okay. Now there is a function, public, let's say login details, right? So login details, then get or verify login details. Okay, here we will pass login request. Okay, then request. Now this should be also async task. Okay, and here we will actually make the database call. How we can make the database call? Like this. db context dot login details dot where, this is your lambda expression, where this is your pointer. Okay, p dot username dot equals is a method which will help you to compare two string. Okay, equals request dot username. Okay, and one more condition, p means database record dot password dot equals request dot password dot first or default means it will give you the first record. Okay, if you first record from the database which is matching with this condition. If there are multiple records having the same username and password, then it will return first record from that list. Okay, this is the our database query. Now where db record is equal to our query. Now db context dot table login where username can be null, so that's why here question mark. Okay, let me check why it is maybe null here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so here question mark, and also here question mark. Okay, if it is null, okay, let me check the null then. If username not equal to null and username from request. Okay, so request dot username not equal to null and request dot password is not equal to null. If both are not null, then only go ahead and try to connect with the database. Okay, and from the database whatever username available into the table also can be null. Okay, here we can add one more condition like p dot username not equal to null. Okay, and p dot username is matching with your username like this, and same you will add to do here like p dot password is not equal to null and p dot password dot equals your password. Okay, give me the first record. Okay, we don't need this if now because we have handled the null in the query only. Okay, now I got the record from the database. Now if there is any record available with this username and password in the database, it means db record is not null. If it is not null, then you can create your login details object. Okay, so what you can do, let's do one thing. Let's change it to get login details. Okay, and it will return you the login details whatever it is. So return db record like this. So actually it has provided a login details by using the username and password from the database. This function, the role of this function is to just get the login details from the database with provided credentials or with provided conditions. Okay, now it is showing the warning message. Why? Because we wanted to use await keyword somewhere like this. Why await keyword? Because this function is async. If it is async, we have to use await keyword somewhere, and we can use first or default async. Okay, this one. Now this will not throw any warning. So we have created one function which will provide you the login details with the help of username and password. Okay, you can just keep your string username comma string password to avoid the dependency of that uh, login request class, right? So there is no dependency between that login request class and this repository class, as we have sent the credentials as a parameters. Okay, now the role of this class is, this repository class is, go to the login table get the user information. That's it. We will call this function from the service. Now, in order to get an object of this repository into the service, you will require the dependency injection. So that's why I need one interface. I account repository. This is your repository pattern. Okay. We mostly all the companies uses the repository pattern. In repository, you will have the database related things only. Business logic will be reside in the service layer and controllers will call the services only. There is no direct communication between controller and repositories. Okay. So it is very important. Now let's create this repository in the common class. Okay. Add repositories. Okay. Here I will create one interface, add new item, iRepository.cs. So this is your interface, public interface iRepository, and this interface will have one function. Okay. So this is the function, right? This function I wanted to implement. So that function signature we need to add here, and it will return you the login details is coming from the DAO layer. So this is in common project and this login details available inside the DAO project. So we need to add the reference of DAO project into the common project. Okay, so let's do that. Because these login entities are available inside the DAO project. So what we can do, if you don't want to add this reference, DAO project reference into the common project, you can move these entities from this project to common project, because common project should not have any references. You can add common project reference into DAO or service or API, but we should not have a reverse way. This common project should not have any dependencies. It should be independent. So that's why I just remove the entities from here, add it into the common project. Now we need to accordingly change the namespace. So talent-to-track.dao, not DAO, talent-to-track.common.entities. Okay, like this. And then if you go to the users class, here we'll need to change that. That's it. Now wherever we are using that in the DB context we were using, right? So if you go to the DB context class, there will be errors, two errors. What are the errors? I don't know what is user. I don't know what is login details. So when it will come to know, when we will add the common reference into this project in the DAO. So I have changed the using talent to track common entities. Now these two classes are identical. Sorry, classes are recognized because we have added the common project reference to the DAO. Okay. Is there any other error? Let's check. I think there will be error in service class, right? Somewhere here in the login details. Okay, never, no, nowhere. So in the repository, common project, we have this account repository and also we have login details class as well. So we don't need to add reference. We just need to add the using. Okay. Using means common, which is available in the entities class, entities folder. So this is the method which we wanted to implement in the account repository here. Now, how, okay, where is this available? It is available under common repository. So that's why we need to add that using as well. Now you can see this interface has get login details method, and that method we have overridden, sorry, implemented into this class here. This is the actual definition of that interface. Okay. Now you can anytime get an object of this iRepository class with the help of dependency injection into any class, but it should have the iRepository interface. It should be overridden from that. Okay. Then only you can get the dependency check. Now, how I can get the object of I account repository to the service, because as I mentioned, from the controller we will call service, from the service we will call the repository. So I am in the service. I wanted to call the repository. So I will need to have one object, public read only I account repository. This one, this object I will require. Why I will require? Because I wanted to fetch the data from database. So account repository knows that where is the data available. So this repository I need to add here like this, and then we will get an object of this account repository using dependency injection. So public constructor injection we are going to do. So that's why parameterize constructor account repository, and then we will initialize the object like this, underscore account repository equal to account repository. That's it. Okay. So in the service class, we got an object of the repository class here. Okay. By using this class, we can actually make the database call now. Account repository dot get login credentials. I will pass username and password request dot username comma request dot password. Okay. Whatever credential I have passed here, what it will return to me? It will return me login details entity. So where log db user is equal to, I got that. Okay. It can be null. So that's why question, exclamation mark. It can be null. That's why exclamation mark. Okay. Whatever data I will get here, if it is null, if db user is null means, as I mentioned, service will have the business logic. So whatever I'm doing now, that is your business logic. Okay. So if database does not have the user having this username and password, it means response dot success is equal to false, and response dot error message is equal to invalid credentials. Okay. And if it is not null, then response dot success is equal to true, and here at the end here we will return response. Okay, like this. So basically this is async, right? So this is async, and we will add await here like this. Why await? Because this method is also async, and if I go inside this method, it is using await keyword. So that's why I'll need to add await keyword here as well. So we have created one verify credentials method inside the account service. Still it is showing one error. Let's see why. Because he wanted us to keep it is in task. Okay, now this error will go. Okay, now we have one account service which has one verify details. We need to call this verify details login verify login details function from the account controller. So account controller, here we will require one more object of the service. So how we'll get that? By using the dependency injection. So here account service will have one object, account service, and this account service we will make a call verify login details, and we will pass our request object as a parameter like this, and then it will verify the details. It will return me the response object where response is equal to response. Okay, and this is await method, and here we need to add a sync API like this. So this is your basic implementation of the login API. This should work as expected. Now why it is crying? Because he's saying key you are having one more parameter, that is I account service. You want to initialize that as well. Yes, I want to. So like this we need to initialize into the parameterized constructor. So this will initialize through your dependency injection. You don't have to create a new object. If you see anywhere, nowhere I have created an object like this, new account service, nowhere. Okay. If you create the object like this, then there is a huge dependency of this class into the current class. So that is Let me give a minute. That will create the dependency of your current class, right? So that should not happen. We should not create the object instances like this. We should take them from the dependency injection. So this is your member variable, which is initialized through the dependency, which is came as a parameterized constructor. Now, how to inject the dependencies to the constructor? We have just expecting key I will get the account service class. No, you will not, because you have to register the dependency into your startup class first. If I run this project as is, it will compile fine. You will see no errors during the compilation, but it will throw the runtime exception that there is no dependency register against this I account service. Let's see that. Okay. So once you run your project, you can see it runs successfully. But whenever you will make a call to your login API, like admin, password is 123, and click on the execute button, it will throw one exception. What is exception? I don't know account service. Why you are expecting in the constructor? So this is the error, which I already told you, right? So how we can handle this error? I don't know means unable to resolve a service, right? This is the technical language. So how we wanted to inform our program, whenever I will mention I account service means it should create an object of account service. Okay, I account service is the interface and its implementation is available inside the account service class. So whenever I will expect I account service interface in the constructor injection, it means dependency has to create an object of account service class. So this relationship we need to implement in the program.cs file. Here you can see this comment, add services to the container. Okay, this is what we need to do. I wanted to register the dependency like builder dot services dot add singleton. Okay, singleton means it will create only one object in entire life cycle of a program, and it will you return that object every time. Okay, so I wanted to create not singleton but transient. Okay, or scope is also fine actually. Add scope. Here you can register the dependencies like scope. For this interface, create an object of this class like this. Okay, account service. Now this program does not know what is account service because we need to add the reference of service project into the API project. So right click, add project reference. Here click the service, click the common, everything in the API project we require everything. So just add all these projects here and then you can see there is no error. Still error? Let me add the using then. Add the using. Okay, there is no error. So we have registered the dependency like this. There are three things: add scope, add transient, and add singleton. Add scope means for current request it will only create one object of account service and will use it across completing the current request. Transient means it will always create a new object whenever you will require that. And singleton means it will always create one object, okay, across the whole life cycle of a program. So I require scoped here for service. Okay. Now for database call. For database call, I require I account repository should be registered again account repo account repository class. Okay, so whenever I will expect I account repository object in the constructor, it means provide me the object of this class. In that case, it should not be scope, it should be transient. Why transient? Because every time whenever you require the database object, it will create a new object. Once you use that, it will destroy that object. So that way there will be concurrent connections, no concurrent connections, or no deadlock situation occurs. So it will be your database class. This is your service class. Now, if you run this project now, it should work as expected without any errors. Okay, let's debug that project. Stop. Okay. Now I have just added the breakpoint to the login API. Click on the HTTPS. Okay, great. So let's try to call the API from Postman. Okay, let's make the habit to call API from Postman. Give me a minute. Yeah, so as you know, we have just created the one API, that is login API, and here we have also registered these dependencies like I account service, I account repositories. So these dependencies we have registered into the program.cs class here. Okay, as we have now registered, given the idea about the dependencies to our project, it will not throw the exception. Last time it throws one exception, right? Whenever I call this API here, it throw one exception. Now this time it will not throw any exception. You can see if I call admin123, click on the execute button, there is no exception. It successfully triggers attach the this breakpoint. Now if you see in the account service, you can see the object of account service class. We are having this account I account service interface. In this interface, we are having an object of talent.track.service.account service. Okay, account service class is available inside the account service interface. Why? Because this service is implemented inside the account service class. Okay, you can see this interface is implemented inside this class. So that's why we have mentioned in the dependency. So what is dependency injection at? You can just let's think about it again. See, dependency injection means create a class object outside of a current class. That's it. This account service class, where is that? It is available inside service project account service class. I wanted to create an object of this class. Why I wanted to create that? Because I wanted to call it's one of the method. Okay, I wanted to call verify login details method, which is available inside the account service class, right? This one. I wanted to call this method from the controller. So if I want to call that method, obviously I will need that class object. If I need that class object, but I don't want to create that object inside this controller, you will not find anywhere. I haven't did like this. Account service equal to account service new account service. असं कुठे केलंय का? We haven't done that anywhere, right? So this one is injected through the constructor. This constructor got an object of the account service class. How? From because of this line. this line. Wherever inside the constructor, if someone expecting an object of I account service, then create an object of account service in the background and provide that object here. So we can initialize that to our member variable and we can use that while calling the in order to call the function. Okay. Okay. Now you can see this object is now got injected properly. This interface, I account service interface has an object of account service class as expected because that is what we have mentioned here. Now I'm going inside the repository service class. Okay. So if I go next and here I'm actually making a call to the verify credential login detail. Now if I just make the control F12, it will show me this file is this method is available inside the interface, but the implementation is available inside the account service class. So what I will need to do, I will right click and go to the implementation. Definition and implementation, there are two things. Definition means where it is declared. It is declared inside the interface. Implementation means what? Where it is implemented. It will show you that it is implemented inside the account service class. Got it? So that's why our debugger will come here. If I click on the continue, it will get attached. Okay. While it come here, it will bring two things, username, password, which we send it as a parameter here. Okay. Now go to the next step. Next step is create the new object for response. Okay. This is empty object I want. So I have just created that. Now in this account service, you will get an object of account repository as well. We are not going to create that here. It will be injected through the constructor. You can see I account repository is having an object of account repository class. This happens because of second line. Okay. We have added I account repository against this class. So that's why wherever you require the object of this class, you just have to mention that is in constructor. In the constructor, you will get an object of in the constructor of service here, right? I want the object of repository. I will just mention in the constructor, you will get the object. You don't have to explicitly create the object. It will inject through the dependency injection because of this line, selected line number 13. And then you will get the object of repository. You will assign that to the member variable. Now I will use that object in order to get the login credentials from the database by using username and password parameters. So it will go inside this method. Again, same thing. If I right click, go to the definition, it will show me it is defined into the I repository interface. Now I wanted to see the implementation. So right click, it will go to the implementation part where it is located. It is in the account repository class. In the repository class, you will get the DB context object as well because that is also injected through the dependency here, line number 15. Okay. Now let's check. Go to the next step. Okay, it came to the login details function. Now you can see DB context has the object of talent to track DB context class. Okay, we have injected that because of the line number 15. While injecting an object of the DB context, we have mentioned the connection string. Now this object database class object already knows everything about the database, where it is located, what kind of tables are available, how to communicate with the database. Everything is aware about that database because of the connection string we have mentioned during the startup class. This is your startup program class means startup. Startup means whenever you will run your application, we will configure these three things. It is already configured. Now inside the account repository, you have an object of the DB class. You can make the query. Now I'm making a query like db context.login details where username is equal to provided username. Provided username is admin and provided password is 123. If I click on the next step, it will actually go to the database, make the connection, fetch the data by using the query, and you will get the data in this object. You can see false 1, password, user is 2, username is came here. Okay, means database has this record. User ID came from the database. Okay, you can see this record has the user ID 2, ID is 1. So this information came from the database. Okay, ID user ID is 2, ID is 1. This all information came from the database, and as this information is available at the database, it means whatever credential you have mentioned was correct, and that business logic is available inside the account service. In the account service, we have made the call to get the information from the database by using the username and password. We got that information, and this information is not null, means this object is available into the database. If it is not null, it will go to the else block, and in else block we are making success equal to true because this information is available. That's why you will get success true. This is the actual implementation of the login API. Now if I try with the invalid credentials like test 123. Okay, so it will again make a call to the controller will make a call to the service will make a call to the repository will go to the database, find the record. If it is not available, again it will come back in the same sequence and will return the result. Okay, let's check one more time. We are in the controller, go next. Okay, this is for step forward, this is for step inside. I wanted to go inside of the verify login details, so I will click on the step into. Okay, come here. Now step next. I wanted to go inside this, so step into. Okay. Okay, yes. Then next. Now I have the username, that is test, password is 123. Obviously there is no record available with the username test, so it will return me null. Okay, this time this DP record should be null. You can see this is null, and as it is null, it will go inside the if block. Okay, DB user is null. If it is null, it means success equal to false, invalid credential message should be get written, and click on the continue. You will see that response as a response success. Yeah, this one, success false, error message equal to invalid credentials. So this is the actual implementation of your login API. You can also call this API through the Postman, because Postman is the one where you can actually test your API calls with the JW token, everything. It is completely customizable. You can do whatever you want. So that's why I personally prefer the Postman instead of the Swagger. Okay, I wanted to call this API. I wanted to send the username password. So I will go to the body, click on the raw, here choose the JSON. Okay, and just send this JSON. The JSON as a request payload. Sorry, not this one. Send this JSON. I wanted to send username password. This is post API, so choose post here. Click on the send. Once you click on the send, it will go to the database. It will go to the controller, then service, then repository, then database, then will come back in the same sequence. This is your result. Success false, invalid credentials. If you could create this API, there is nothing like that. I mean, there is nothing to learn about in API project. All the APIs will create like this only. This is opportunity for you to create a new project from base. Okay, in each and every company, they will have project created already. You don't have a chance or opportunity to work on the framework or architecture of the project. In this case, there is a opportunity for you to create a new project from the scratch with the architecture. If you know the architecture, you can create any kind of APIs. So this is your API project, and this is your sample API which I have created, that is a login. So I guess we can call this API from your client application. We are having these many client applications again. Okay, web client, Android client, iOS client. So obviously in order to enter into your account, you will have to validate your credentials. So for that purpose, this login API will be always useful. We will call this API only from the web application, from the Android application, from the iOS application, and then we'll get your credential verified. Once it returns true, you can redirect to the dashboard page. Okay, but if it returns false, it will throw the error message, that is username and password is invalid. If you could do that, if you could create any other APIs like this, then you are master of the API project. Let me stop the recording. We'll meet again in the next session. In the next session, we are going to learn about how we can create the JWT token. Once we verify your API credentials, then we will require one JWT token. That token will be useful to secure your other endpoints like create user, create course. So if you are an admin, if you have logged into your account, then only you should be able to access the create course web API. So this kind of authorization we will do by using the JWT token, and that we will create on the login API. So there are two things, authentication and authorization. Authentication means verify the credentials and create the JWT token. Authorization means we will pass the JWT token as a request header, and we need to verify whether the currently logged in user has the permission to create call the current API or not. If it has the permission, then only it will give a call. Otherwise, it will return unauthorized response. So all these things we will learn in the next session. See you again. Thank you.